Hello friends, today I am here to discuss something useful for the people who are searching for PhD. Mainly nowadays, earlier times, even a bachelor degree was a very big degree. Nowadays, everyone need to get a PhD degree for the successful career. So usually everyone are, even if it is in engineering, even if it is in the, business, all these people are taking. I am saying these two fields because they are not much concerned about doing research. They usually after MBA or after engineering they will go to directly to job. This field also nowadays they are most focused on PhD, taking PhD. While coming to PhD, today I will talk only about where to take the PhD, whether it is in a private university or in a state government university. I am not touching IITs, IISers or IAC or research institutes throughout India, which is what run by CSA or ICMR. I am not touching that. I am just touching the government state university or a private university. Which one is better? That is what we are going to talk. It is just like a informal discussion. I am going to tell from my experiences what all things I have gone through. I have worked in both institutions, so what will be better? So that is what I am going to discuss. Mainly, when we think about state universities, usually state universities are, if it most of the state universities are running the courses for a long time, more than 10, 15, or 20 years. So they may have a good infrastructure with them. A lot of yearly, usually state governments will give a lot of money for the buying the instruments, all these things. So they have a good infrastructure with them. And also the thing is that the state university, state government universities, I'm first saying about state government university, then I will come to private universities. So state government universities will have a funding from lot of funding bodies, mainly UGC is supporting state universities lot, as well as these state governments who are the chief patrons of these state universities, so they will be providing a lot of funding. And also other fundings from DST or any other institutions also. It is very easy for a state university to get, because there are eminent people working there, as well as the name of the university itself is enough to get these fundings. So they have enough fundings for the infrastructure, basic chemical buying, everything. They will have the funding. So extra funding only, what extra you need, if you need to do some molecular biology experiment, if you have a DNA sequencer in your department, in order to run that, how much chemical, maybe that chemical you need to buy. If you don't have that facility, how much you need to spend out, like that things only you need to bother when you are joining a state university. So basic things, basic instruments, basic chemicals, everything will be available most of the state universities. And only you need to think about what extra, depending on your work, what extra you need. That's only you need to think about when you're joining state university. And when thinking about that, if your PI, if your investigator or mentor, or your PhD guide has enough projects, then it will be very easy for getting all this. If your mentor is don't having much projects also, all universities are providing some fundings to the people who don't have the funding also. So with joining state universities, I think funding problem will not be there, depending on depending on the nature of your mentor and their workflow. Depending on that, you can decide whether you need to work in a state university. Mainly, when you are joining a state university, you should check the profile of that mentor. He or she is how much time it will taken for the students coming out from he or she's lab, or how many papers they are publishing, where they are publishing. These things mainly you just look before joining the lab. So these are the main common things which you should check before joining a state university lab. I will explain more in detail in the later videos. So now we can discuss what is happening in private universities. I think A lot of universities have been budding up throughout these years, throughout the country. Very well, I think. I have not seen private universities in Kerala only. Otherwise, all the states, lot of private universities, lot of colleges which are running multiple courses are being converted to private universities. That is what it's happening most places. A lot of colleges has been converted to private universities. So they, as a university which is recognized by UGC, they can offer the PhD. But how much a person who just required a PhD or a doctor before their name, it's okay for joining any university, doing the research there, and you will be awarded the doctorate. I'm not talking about that people, but mainly the people who need to proceed further for postdoc or going to be a scientist. This type of people, while joining a private university, what are things you need to keep in mind? I will say about 90% of the private universities in India are just small colleges. They're converted to universities. So they don't have enough infrastructure with them. I have seen universities which don't have even two test tubes and two flask, like that things. So many universities may not have enough funding for the research. Mainly, they don't have enough funding, so they don't have infrastructure also. So these things lacking in most of the universities, the private universities throughout India. And if your mentor is having good number of projects, or if your mentor is having good scientific history, you can definitely join a private university with them also, because they have the competency to get projects, and they have the competency to publish. You can easily, by that publication, you can easily go to good horizons in your future. So before joining that, joining any universities, you should look the history of the universities, and history of the people got PhD from that university. That is very much thing, and how many papers they have published, to with whom they have worked. All these things you should keep in your mind. So you should check the papers published by the fellow from that university, and the outcome of the mentor, and the outcome of that particular lab. All these things you should keep in mind, and you can just check. Now everything is available online. You can just check the university's website, whether the instruments, the equipments which you want to do your research is available there or not, and how much, if it is available also, you can check how much output is coming using these equipments from that university. Actually, you must check that, as well as you need to check. First, you check the infrastructure and infrastructure structure of the university, as well as you need to check the your mentor, how many number of papers they have published, how many number of papers they have published recently from that university. That is one thing you need to understand. Most of the mentors PhD guides have been published earlier, but we should check how much they have published in that university, how much PhD students are passed from that university. That is, I'm stressing that thing. In that university, how much they have published from that university, how many got PhD. If any got PhD also, you should check how many papers they have published and where they have published. This is very must. Then only, if your mentor is good, if your university is having infrastructure. A lot of universities in India, I think a lot of universities in private universities in India have a very good infrastructure, very good laboratory facility, everything. Everything, many I've seen many of the private universities are very bigger lab than a state government university have. So very good, very bigger instruments. All these things I have seen in many of the private universities. But some of them are just like schools. So I'm saying, so don't having much infrastructure. I'm just saying schools because school labs don't have much infrastructure or anything. There is no scientific experiment going on in the school lab. So some of the universities are just like schools only. So you should check which university you are going to take your PhD. You check thoroughly, then only join a PhD anywhere. So PhD is not just doing something and getting a doctorate degree. I think that university will also award you the doctorate degree, but that will not help you in your future development. All these things. So while we compared the state government universities or the private universities, state government universities have more financial support and infrastructure compared to that of the private universities. And while selecting the private university, you should first check the infrastructure of the university, and how many people came out after PhD from there. And you check your mentor, not his or her profile, his or her profile in that institution, how much they have produced, or how much output they have given from that institution. That is major thing you need to check. And if it is satisfying for you, doing PhD in state or private university is same. And I think in private university it may be flexible, and you can get a more number of publications, all these things in private university compared to that of state university, because state university is mostly most of the places there will be a lot of politics, all these things will be there. So everywhere there is something positive or something negative is there. If I am saying, if these things, positive things are coming okay for you, it is better to do in a private university. It's somewhat similar if it is a private university or government university. But while selecting, you should throw out this 90% of the university which don't have any infrastructure. So that is what we are discussing. We will be discussing more things like this later videos. Thank you for everyone watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.